if there's one thing that the ICC have done well so as to make sure that Test cricket does not really become an endangered species, they've actually had the World Test Championship. And what it really means is that they've had 3 successful stints of the World Test Championship. New Zealand were the inaugural winners there. Australia won the 2nd edition, and it's going to be either Australia or South Africa who will be crowned the winners of the 3rd edition of the World Test Championship here. But if we talk about the competition from the rest of the teams that has been at the show in the 3 editions of the World Test Championship so far, well, it hasn't really been up to the mark, to say the least here. Well, India have really done well in the 3 editions. So have Australia. South Africa have actually risen up the ranks here, and in case of England, they have been totally inconsistent. So now, so as to make sure that ICC can have some kind of more competition in the World Test Championship, they are probably going to decide, or in fact review, their point system so that there's more competition here. And what could it really be? Well, let's have a look. Well, in a report by Telegraph, it has basically been confirmed that the ICC will have a review meeting in the 1st or the 2nd week of April here, so as to decide how they want to go about their points system for the World Test Championship. And what could really be the changes here? Well, let's have a look. That bonus points for dominant wins. And if we take a look at the most important keywords here, that what could really be the bonus points for the dominant wins? Well, in this case, it could be the innings victories that one team achieves against the other, so as to make sure that there is more balance, there is more competition, and at the very same time, those massive wins are truly rewarded. So if we talk about the dominant wins here, or the innings victories, will it really be dependent on any of the conditions? Well, whether it's a home test for any team or an overseas test, well, that's basically going to be irrespective of it. So for example, if Bangladesh achieve a massive win in and against India, they would be rewarded with those massive points, which means there could be bonus points there. Second here is extra points for away wins, and in this case we have really seen that the likes of Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, who haven't really done well in the 3 editions of World Test Championship, but in this particular issue is that they have gone on to achieve those massive overseas victories. In case of Sri Lanka, they did achieve a good victory against England, in and against England in 2024. But if we talk about Bangladesh, they achieved a series victory in Pakistan conditions. So if something like this happens this time around in the next World Test Championship cycle of 2025 until 2027, the teams who achieve those massive victories in overseas conditions, they would be rewarded with the extra points. And the last but not the least point here, that beating top ranked teams could be rewarding. So in this case, let's just take an example that India versus West Indies is a test series, a 2-match test series here, irrespective of the conditions where it is played. If West Indies go on to defeat India in that particular series by a margin of 1-0 or 2-0, they could be rewarded with those extra points here. And why do I say that it's going to be West Indies who will be rewarded with those extra points? Because West Indies currently, if you take a look at the ICC test standings, they are well below India. So that's where, the extra points really lie, that if a team like West Indies or a Bangladesh defeat India in a test series, they would be rewarded with the extra points. Now, if we take a look at, some of the points that have been discussed or raised by the other or the top ranked cricketing boards here, Cricket Australia, they want a 2-tier test system. Now, what does it really mean by 2-tier test system? Well, to have the likes of India, England, Australia in tier 1, obviously because they are the top ranked teams here. And if we talk about the tier 2 system, it would really have the teams who are ranked in the middle half of the ICC standing, someone like South Africa, Sri Lanka, West Indies, Pakistan and Bangladesh. So as to make sure that there is proper difference there and there's proper competition. So maybe someone like South Africa or let's say Sri Lanka, they go on to do well being in the tier 2 system, they might just be promoted to the tier 1. But basically in this case, it's somewhat a case of having a relegation for the teams like Sri Lanka, Pakistan and West Indies, and for the top ranked teams, it is going to be a fact that they stay in the tier 1 system. And South Africa's easy path to the final in this time has led to widespread criticism. Now, South Africa, if we take a look at the series that they really played, they defeated Pakistan there. They also achieved a home series win against Sri Lanka. And despite losing to New Zealand 2-0 and having a third string side there, well, South Africa, irrespective of the number of matches that they played, they qualified for their maiden World Test Championship final, and that has been criticized primarily because South Africa did not really play any of the tough series against the likes of India, or maybe, for that matter, against England and Australia. Against India, they did play a 2-match series, but they did not really play a series against the other top teams like England and Australia. And that's why it has come in for widespread criticism that there has to be fair competition, and that's why ICC would review its point system. Now, what could really be the end goal if the ICC does go on to make those changes here? Reward all performances fairly. Like, the points that we mentioned in the first slide, there could be extra points rewarded for a team beating a top-ranked team there. There could be extra points for an overseas win. So just to make sure that all performances are rewarded fairly, that's why ICC could make this particular change. And at the very same time, if the likes of Sri Lanka, West Indies or Bangladesh can spring a surprise against any of the top-ranked teams, one thing is for sure, that they would be in the contention for a spot in a possible World Test Championship final. And last but not the least, but more variables could create complications. You can have probably, one or two tier systems there. You can have multiple test series, or maybe, kind of two World Test Championships wherein tier 1 is playing against one another, so as to make sure that, there are multiple 5-match series, or maybe there's more revenue for the likes of ECB, CA and the BCCI, and maybe the other boards or the other cricketing teams are fighting it out so as to make sure that they face the tier 1 teams more often than not. So it can obviously create a lot of complications. But to make sure that Test cricket survives in the times of T20s, maybe the ICC would want to take a look at all the points here. So what do you think about the possible points that will be discussed in the ICC review meeting of its, point system here? And do you really think that Test cricket should have a 2-tier system? You can let us know your thoughts in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe to Sports Today for all the exciting updates and analysis from the sporting world. Until then, on behalf of my producer Sugandha, it's Siddharth Gulati saying goodbye.